All right, what is good? I am having to do a recording because I do have some night classes tonight. So I won't be able to do a live recap as I normally do. It's partly unfortunate. I am on my last semester, so obviously this kind of crap will be ending relatively here soon. Obviously, upcoming May would be graduation. But besides the point, I do want to get this video out before I have to head to classes for the evening. But in regards to today, it was a no news Monday, so my hopes weren't super high. Wasn't expecting a whole lot of clean movement, especially in the AM session. And I was correct on that. Obviously, things did pick up a little bit later on in the session, nearing New York lunch. However, open was very gross. So kind of hopping into this right here. Obviously, we have open right here at 8:30. Again, today was a no news Monday with as much high impact news as we have this week. I believe we have 13 red folders. I'm going to be playing these kind of days relatively cautious and be very picky. And I'll go over some setups. Mechanically, were great, but with a little bit of discretion, I refrained from taking them. As I stated, I'm going to be very picky on this day specifically. So obviously, we have 8:30 open right there. We start to get this Judas up, right? And we displace. This is a okay example right before, but this is using some inverses. So I kind of want to explain this a little bit deeper. This is before the 840, but this is still a quality inverse example right here. So you can see at open, we kept rejecting this. I believe this is a 30-second fair value gap right up here. We finally got some clean movement through right there on the 15-second. We had a tiny little fair value gap there that would have tagged you in right there and would have ran up 18 points. Obviously, like I said, being a no news Monday, I will not be taking anything before the window, especially because I'm expecting relatively choppy conditions throughout the whole AM, right? And then we did have a couple good plays. The 30-second, that again, I did not take because we were in a massive 5-minute fair value gap. And I'll actually bump up on the 5 minutes and see if I can show this, because right here, you can't see it now, but let me see if I can delete some of these lines. And I'll explain the thought process behind it, right? So we had this 5-minute gap right here, as you can see right here, this big 5-minute gap. And these wicks were telling me to be patient, to wait for a clear direction, because these wicks were looking really devious to me. We weren't even closing even near the CE of the fair value gap. We didn't even close a body inside the fair value gap. We were putting in some nasty wicks there. And as you can see, we were just seesawing right there. But like I said, if you were using some discretion on this, or not discretion, if you were trading this relatively mechanical, you would have been relatively golden for the AM session, in my opinion. We did have this one. Like I said, this was a 15-second. We had a 1-minute fair value gap that we got a clean inversion through. We kept respecting it. And finally, we got some clean displacement down with the scalping model presenting right there. And you would have been tagged in on that first candle right there. And then this one did end up going 18 points. Did not come up and stop you at break even, which is quite nice. Usually on a no news Monday, you can't expect to reach full TP, but it did quite a few times. And then right after that, we did have a 30-second scalp. This one, I remember saying on stream, I was like, man, because we almost closed under the 5-minute fair value gap right there. We almost inversed it, but they were playing some devious games this morning. We did not get a clean close through it. I think we closed like 3-4-ish ticks from fully closing under it. But this 30-second, had we have inverses, I would have been absolutely all over this. We had some liquidity resting down here. We had a level at 17.524 that I was eyeing, right? And right here, you can see we have this low put in that we displaced through second candle. And we would have been tagged in right there on the second candle of that entry. And then this one would have been a full 18-point winner. If you did catch us, good job. Like I said, I did not, because that 5-minute fair value gap, the way we were waking out of it, I did not like it at all. And I already stated that I was going to be super picky today. But getting into the next setup, I actually did take this. This is probably the first time I've specifically seen this kind of setup lose. And that's expected. When if we zoom out a little bit, you can see us. We're just rip, consolidate, knife, rip, consolidate, knife, rip. I mean, this is just seesaw action, and it's not the best to be engaged in. And I mean, honestly, at the time, we had kind of got a clean displacement down, even though, like I said, we were doing that seesaw action. We did have some bunch of engineer liquidity right down here. You can see that sell-sided level I already have marked. We have a low right there. We have a low right there. We have a low right there. And this 15-second, let me hop over here on my right side of my chart. This is a 15-second chart. You can see, let me go down to it. Where is it? Let me scooch over. So like I was saying, we had all that engineered liquidity. We had equal lows even there. And we had this little baby fair value gap presented right after displacing below that low on that second candle. As you can see, you got tagged in on that first candle. This one did go like 3.75 points, nowhere near the 12 points or 6 point break even. I guess 2 points away, but still is a loser. And like I said, this is probably the first time I've specifically seen this, because this is an A plus, right? We have this 1 minute gap up here that we displaced out of, broke that low right there. Clean little fair value gap, got tagged in on the first candle, which signifies some speed to me, but we failed to reach any of these equal lows, which is just part of the game. It's part of understanding the probabilities of trading. As I always say, you're going to have winners, you're going to have losers. It's completely normal. Any model is going to have them. You are very, very unlikely to be winning every single trade. Maybe come out green every single day, every single trading day. For the most part, if you are scalping, it's definitely 100% doable, but every trade, absolutely not. And then kind of getting into the next setup. This I was right before I was going to the gym. Ark and I weren't even on a call anymore. But I had saw this right before I turned my computer off. And it was kind of one of those where it just like jumps out to you and you want to, or you feel the need to take it, because it's like so many things are in alignment here, right? So this specific one, this was a 30-second play, and I'll kind of explain the thought process behind it. So obviously you can see we are currently in a buy program, right? If you're using some standard deviation projections, let me mark them out really quick. Right here, okay, you can see we come up to this -1, -1.5, which is usually going to be the retracement area before we continue higher and take out all this low resistance liquidity that we have residing right here. So kind of with that in mind, we're expecting a retracement back into the range to take out some sell side and rebalance some inefficiencies. And as you can see, these two green boxes down here, those are both 1 minute bullish fair value gaps. And we have this very ominous low resting right here, right? We come down, we take that low, no body close below it, we wick it, and then we start displacing up, and then we get a clean close above this 1 minute fair value gap, this blue box right here, in turn turning it into an inverse, right? So I'm immediately thinking, okay, if we get a clean scalping setup here, I 100% take it, because a lot of things have lined up. I have strong conviction on this specific setup, right? So if I can get my tool to work, we displace above this high right here. So keep in mind this is something I covered too recently, is this little baby fair value gap down here. I'm thinking of that as a breakaway. I'm not thinking that we are likely going to retrace back into it. Of course, we always can, right? I mean, you can never know with certainty if we're going to have a breakaway gap in regards to such low time frame charts, right? But we displace above that. We disrespect that 1 minute bearish fair value gap, close above it, get a clean 30-second setup right there. And you would have been tagged in. Let me mark it out right here. You'd have been tagged in right on that first candle. And then this one did take a little bit of heat. It actually did come down to that one that I initially thought would be a breakaway, but it did not come to the stop. And that was a full 18-point winner right there. This is probably, in my eyes, the most picture perfect setup that occurred in the AM session, right? We had standard deviation projections. We were expecting a little short-term retracement, taking out some sell side, rebalance some inefficiencies before we continue higher. But overall, that's really it for the AM. Like I said, nothing too crazy today. There were a couple scalps that I took in PM, but it's all the same thought process. Everything intertwines. It's all a part of the same idea. But overall, like I said, today, didn't come into it with high hopes. Was not expecting it to be the greatest day in regards to, we have no news. It's a Monday, right? And we have 13 red folders this week that we have yet to even ensue into, right? So I'm expecting, obviously, this week to clean up a little bit in regards to setups. I'm expecting us to establish some clear moves that we'll be able to take advantage of and catch those scalps on the way up or the way down. But I will say, usually in these kind of ranging markets like this, you can't expect too much. I mean, it's going to be part of it. Obviously, that's the beauty of scalping on low time frame charts, second charts, is you can actually capitalize on stuff like this, right? Like, obviously, we had some quality setups right there. And kind of understanding conditions, I still wanted to be on the risk off side and risk low until we got a clear direction. And that's basically what happened after we got off the charts. As you can see, we started establishing this clear move up, targeting all that low resistance liquidity and some of these standard deviation projections, right? And this is like my absolute favorite kind of market, when we get these clear relatively slower grinds up, right? That prevents some, or present some quality setups. Those are going to be the best. And when we get stuff like this, it's really easy to get chopped up into. And that's why I trade it relatively discretionary, especially in conditions like this, is because you don't want to get caught in the wrong thing. Because you can see, obviously, we knife down, we rip up. You don't want to be getting caught down in this area. And it just so happened that specific play that did happen to me right there. And that's a perfect example. Even though we had all this resting liquidity, I mean, that could be straight up safe for later. And it's part of it. And I understand the game of probabilities here, right? I'm not worried about that one loser. That's not going to affect me because I know over a certain amount of trades, I will come out on top. It's proven data-wise. I mean, that's just understanding an edge realistically. And that's also what I know a lot of people need to work on is one loss is not going to kill you. You need to zoom out and understand the big picture. One loss will not determine who you are as a trader. One loss will not determine if you are good. One loss will not, or one win will not determine if you're good. Sorry, I mixed that up there. Getting on a little rant. But regards to that, I mean, obviously, like I was saying, you need to be cautious of stuff like that and be able to recognize the conditions you are in at present time and capitalize on or de-risk off, my bad. Like risk on, risk off, conditions are good, risk on, conditions are meh, ranging markets, risk off a little bit and be a little bit more picky about these setups. And kind of looking at this actually going into after 10:30, there were some decent, it looks like right here, this was actually a quality setup. We had a 1 minute gap right down here. We mark it with that, it's that green box right there. We had that 1 minute gap and we actually, it's another quality one. This is like a good example of what I mean. When we have these like slow trending moves up right here, these are going to be the absolute best because those are the times when you get setups back to back, right? So this one, obviously we displaced above that high, not the greatest displacement, but it still counts. It's within the rule requirements, right? So you would have been tagged in on that second candle, wick down, tagged you in. And then this one also would have been a full 18-point winner. So keep that in mind when I say the best conditions are going to be like this, right? You want to be able to recognize that and risk off and be able to recognize this and risk on, right? And I mean, overall, throughout the day, I mean, holy, I did not realize we ripped up that high. Goodness gracious. But yeah, like I was saying, be able to recognize conditions and you'll be golden. Nothing too crazy to worry about in regards to today. I mean, overall, relatively clean. I expected it to be worse than this. I did not expect there to be this many setups presented. But we did start to establish something later on right before news and kind of continued in regards to PM. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Like I said, I got to get to classes here in a little bit and kind of go from there. So I won't be able to do a live recap tonight, but I hope this helps for people studying, trying to get better at this model. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a tweet on Twitter or comment down on this video, and I will get to them as quick as possible. And with that being said, I will catch you on the next video and hope you'll stay safe, trade smart, follow your rules, and continue to execute. Peace.